Guys, this is round two of me trying to film this because I didn't have any audio on my last one because my mic wasn't working. Anyway, my name is Peyton Hawes, and I'm going to be doing my first recap and review of season 8 of Love is Blind. This is my first time doing recaps and reviews of this show. The only other show I've done is The Secret Lives of Mormon Wives. So if you liked that show and you would be interested in something like that, I'll make sure to put the playlist down in the description box below. But yeah, without further ado, let's get right into the video. Guys, my family has been so sick, so please like and subscribe if you like this video or this content, because I'm ready for this to be over. I think we're on the mend, but everyone's just tired. I think we're on the mend, but everyone's tired. Okay, so to start off with episode 1, we're gonna kick it off with Daniel back at it again with the white vans. I know someone with that name, someone I don't like, but just because his name is Daniel doesn't mean he's a bad person, okay? I heard someone say in one of their reviews that he looks like a squeak toy that they wanted to go through and just be like, and I laughed so hard because I understood it for some reason. But yeah, so Daniel says that one of his concerns is that he's 5'8". Now, I'm not one to shame people physically, okay? But he has a point in the sense that women typically prefer taller men. That's just like kind of an average thing, at least in America it is. And so that's been a difficulty that he's had in dating and relationships. And I like that he said, you know, if a woman has a problem with his height, then they're not the woman for him. And I was like, yes, go Daniel. Yes. Self-esteem. We need that. I'm 5'7" and I dated someone who was 5'8" in high school, and I didn't really mind, but I knew that I didn't like to wear high heels around him. I felt weird being taller than him, but he didn't seem to feel weird by it, but I did. So am I one of the women that are making this a problem? Probably, but I can't help what is inside. Okay, this is reviewing the show. This is reviewing the show. Stay on topic, Peyton. Anyway, so he starts talking with Taylor right away. So Daniel and Taylor start kicking it off immediately, and so far they have the same similarities. They both want a family and a marriage and kids, and it's cute. It wasn't giving me anything quite yet. I feel like some people were in the feels immediately, like they're sold, they love this couple, and I'm like, they don't have, what am I trying to say? It sounded very basic. Like lots of people want to get married and have kids one day and have that family. I think that is a very extremely common goal that people have in America, at least. People on the show are opting to get married. I feel like people who want to be on this show probably oftentimes want children too. So when the music was all just like, yeah, and it's like, oh my gosh, he wants a family. I was like, I get this is an editing thing, but I was like, yeah, I'm sure most people on here want a family. I'm sure. Okay, I do want to point out, first of all, Taylor is absolutely gorgeous. She's a nurse. She works in GI related stuff, and so that was really funny in some of her dates that she had, just bringing that up. And yeah, she said she is done with the dating scene. She's tired of the first dates, and she's just ready to find her person and just be in that stage of life. And I'll tell you what, I'm glad I'm not out here dating anymore and that I have my person. I know what she means, except I'm 26 and have been married for almost 7 years. Wait, I'm 25. I got married at 18, coming up on 7 years of marriage, and I turned 26 this year. So I didn't really do a lot of the dating, but I did in a way. Guys, why am I being so awkward? It's like I'm not filming nearly as much as I used to, and so I'm over here like touching my hair. Okay, we're done. We're done with this. Carry on. Next characters. Okay, so next in the pods, we get Brittany and Devin. First of all, if any of you watch any other Love is Blind recaps and reviews, you probably know about Queen E. I don't even think I know her actual name, but I love her videos. And Brittany is making me think of Queen E a ton because they're both just like really fun and goofy, but down to earth and like very meaningful. And they're both seemingly Christian and love like gospel music and stuff. And they just kind of gave me like similar vibes. So if you know who I'm talking about, leave a comment because I don't know. I shipped them as friends, even though they don't know each other, and that probably barely makes sense. But anyway, Brittany is 34 and Devin is 28. Brittany asked him if he'd ever dated anyone older than him before. And he said when he was 24, he dated someone who was 30. And we'll get into like his next match later, but he ends up chatting with someone else who's also a little bit older than him. So, but yeah, he seems, it doesn't seem like a very big deal. I feel like age matters in certain contexts. Obviously, the difference between a minor and adult matters big time. And then once you're in adulthood, I think age gaps really are specific to certain situations. Let me know in the comments if you agree or if you disagree, because I feel like a 4-year age gap for some people can mean absolutely nothing, and a 4-year age gap can mean maturity and not. And you know, when you get into like the teens of years, I feel like the bigger the age gap, the more likely it is to be an issue, but I don't think it means that it has to be an issue or will always be one. I think there are lots of people who had to experience like a lot of hard things in their lives and were forced to grow up faster. I think there are people who want someone who is a bit more mature than they are to help them in that area. I think there's different things. I've always been attracted to guys older than me my entire life. Married someone 4 years older than me. And even in friendships, I've always had friends who were older than me as well. And some of my favorite people who I feel like just get me are a lot of times in their 50s. So, but then I'm Gen Z, so I thought I was a millennial. I was born in 1999. I thought that meant I was a millennial, but I guess millennial ends at 95, which is the year my husband was born. And then it goes into Gen Z. I was like, oh, I feel like I'm right in the middle of a Gen Z and a millennial childhood. I've been told my whole life that I'm an old soul, but I kind of try and keep my silly, goofy nature on YouTube just because it's fun. Once again, we're getting back on topic. Okay, so Brittany says that you can call her B Dot. That's like a little nickname she has. I thought it was kind of funny because Devin says people call him D-Buck. And both of them, I think both nicknames were derived from basketball related things. If not, Devin's definitely was. But I thought it was funny. They had just like little nicknames that are kind of similar. Brittany, sorry. It's like gonna roll off. I have to like force it to come off my tongue differently because she says it's not Brittany, it's Brittany. So I have to like force myself to remember that. Not a problem. Just I've met a lot of Britneys in my life that pronounce it that way. But she plays basketball and she's coached basketball, loved it her whole life. And Devin coaches girls varsity basketball. And he's a program director for a youth sports company. He seems very family oriented. Brittany says that she wants as many kids as her body will allow her to have and that her husband wants to have. She wants with her husband, to write her own rules for her family, which I love that. I think a lot of people think that there are certain rules to parenting that you have to follow and they kind of do it blindly, or they just do whatever their parents did with them. And I've really enjoyed writing my own rules with my husband, and that aspect of parenting is just blissful. It's a lot more thought out and intentional in how you're doing things with your children. So I related to her on that note for sure. But so far, I really like Devin and Brittany together. I think they hit it off really well. I think they vibe really well together. So yeah, so far, shipping them. Okay, this is now where Virginia is getting introduced. So Virginia sounds like someone, she sounds like someone I would be friends with. maybe not like best friends. She might be, I don't know. I don't know. I'm figuring it out, but I really, really enjoy her vibe. She was talking about how it's like such a unique opportunity to be able to get to know somebody without seeing them. And she said, because these bodies are just on loan to us, they rarely reflect what's going on the inside. And I was like, I love that quote. I literally wrote it down on my notes. I think I wrote it incorrectly. I said, our bodies are being loaned to us. They rarely reflect what's going on the inside. Oh, maybe I did write it right. Whatever. But I really liked that. And she's drop dead gorgeous, by the way. And she said that a lot of people are usually really shocked to hear that she's a doctor. So she has a doctorate degree in healthcare administration. She used to work in a private practice, but she is in an actual hospital-based job now. And she used to dance for the NBA, which that part's not surprising. I mean, it was surprising because like that's just a really cool, unique opportunity. I used to dream of stunting for the NBA and being on the stunt teams. If I had the body for it, I would still do that today. An amazing, fun way to exercise and build community. Anyway, so I was like, okay, like that sounds super cool. But yeah, I would totally be shocked to see that she's a doctor, and not to say that doctors cannot be pretty or what have you. I think you just picture a doctor life being busy and difficult and not having a lot of time to focus on like what you look like, and that like your focus is on a lot of other things. And not to say that her focus isn't, but she definitely spends time on her physical appearance, and she's like has her hair and makeup done all nice. She's got like these beautiful like bodycon outfits that just accentuate her body type really well, and she's got all her jewelry and all the things. And it's, I don't know, it's, you almost don't expect someone that gorgeous to be in that kind of field. I don't know. It doesn't really make sense. It's like our brains do it for some reason, and we're like, why do we think that way? I have no idea. But yes, she's a smart queen. Okay, carry on. Okay, next we have Joey and Monica getting introduced. First of all, spoiler alert, I love them and I ship them. I do have something to say. So Monica said that she always has music playing. And Joey's like, well, what kind of music do you like to listen to? And she says, everything but country. First of all, everything. Like rock and roll, heavy metal, screamo, hip hop, rap, pop, K-pop, children's lullaby music, spa music. I feel like there's so many things that are not coming to my brain right now. EDM. Like there's a lot of genres, okay? So like everyone who says, oh, I'll listen to everything. It's like, yeah, but like what do you choose to put on normally most of the time? Give me like top 3. But they were talking about like why they don't like country music. And they were like, oh, it's all just like, it just got broken up with, gonna get in my truck, gonna slam a beer. How did he say it? And she's like, yeah, and all the girl ones are like, I hate this guy and I'm gonna murder him and all this stuff. And I'm just like, country is probably my top music. It's my most listened to. It's the genre that I intentionally choose to put on the most. I used to say I hated it because it was popular to hate it where I grew up, and I wanted to be popular. I'm not saying that's what they're doing, but the reason I love country music, and mind you, I don't sing country music because I'm also a singer, and it's not a genre that anyway, that's I think I have ADHD because my brain goes way faster than I could even speak. But yeah, I love country music, and I feel like it relates to my life. So there's some of like the party ones where it's like we're drinking and all this stuff and it's fun. Like Post Malone came out with some, and what's his name? Shabuzi. He's really cool too. And those are fun, like pump up my mood and like get some cleaning done kind of vibes. But I love the romantic and family-oriented country music the most. Probably my top 2 most played playlists on YouTube Music, which is the platform I use, is Country Family and Cuddling Country. And I love them because like the family oriented ones make me think about my life. And there's one by Dan and Shay called Bigger Houses, and about how, you know, a lot of times we can dream about being in a bigger house, or how the grass is always greener on the other side, or your neighbor just got has this like clean new car next door that's a bit newer than yours is. And how we can just crave the things that other people have, keeping up with the Joneses kinds of things. Where now it's kind of like keeping up with the Kardashians, but in my eyes, because I don't even know who the Joneses are, I just know the saying. But anyway, and about how he's realized that that's not where true happiness comes from. And it's about, you know, sitting in the porch swing outside and watching your sunset and seeing your kids playing in the yard, and things that we have right now that we can be grateful for and love and appreciate and feel like this is it. We've made it. This is the life we have. And I just love that perspective, because I do dream of bigger houses, and I do dream of having more money to be able to afford more with my family. And I know a lot of people villainize that, but I kind of see it as just wanting my family to be taken care of, and wanting us to be well off, and wanting to be able to extend beyond just, you know, the people who live in my house, and be able to help other people and whatnot. And then I love the music there. There's a lot of country wedding music. It's just about love and how we found each other, and we're going to live our lives together, and this is beautiful what we found. And kind of surprising, like a lot of it is kind of like has Christian type stuff within it as well. Like about how they thank God that you found each other, or how could heaven be better than this? And there's like a lot of songs like that. Anyway, and I'm not religious. So, and if you're new here, I'm ex-Mormon, and I talk about it all over my YouTube channel, so you can find that kind of stuff on my channel as well. But so all the country music they were talking about, I was like, yes, those are definitely popular ones. I don't listen to very many female country singers, just because there are a lot that are like breakup, heartbreak songs, which I get. That can be very nice to have when you are experiencing breakups or hardships, and you want to feel like other people are out there who get you, and you want to feel that emotion. But that's not something that's relatable in my life. I'm in a very happy marriage with my family and my kids, so I love listening to family oriented and loving relationship music in that country genre. It just really gets me in my feels. So yeah, apparently I needed to give that rant. Okay, but I really loved Monica and Joey's date a lot, actually. They both love swing dancing, and I feel like they got a little bit vulnerable. Joey talked about how he had a sister who passed away, and he didn't want to get too into it in that moment, but he was like, you know, hopefully if we continue this, like we can dive more into it later. We kind of talked about that, and that brought like a little bit of intimacy to the conversation, and vulnerability, I guess, is probably a better word. But they hit it off immediately, and you could just feel their connection. Monica talked about how she dated someone who was like husband material, and he went out with a friend on spring break and was like, hey, can you house sit for me and watch my cat? And she's like, of course. And he came back and said he was just done, and to this day she has no idea what happened. So like, obviously he got cheated on, or she got cheated on or something, but that must have sucked. As someone who was cheated on, but I knew that had happened and knew in vivid detail what happened, which was great. It was so great. But now I don't really care as much, because it led me to my gorgeous man of a husband that I have now. Honestly, can we just put a picture of my husband in here? I won't show my kids because privacy, hello. But my husband, can I just show you how cute he is? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Insert claps and awws sounds here. Thank you. Okay, so now David is getting introduced, and I wrote a lot of notes about David. I really did. I literally the first note I took said, I feel off about him and how he talks about his idea of what women should look like and it being skewed. He said he was an ass to women in the past. he admits to being shallow. His sense of humor is rude, which makes me think that he's insecure. And some of the other things were less about his personality and more about his dates. But anyone who came in and said that they were 30 or older, he was like, so you're no longer attractive. And I was just like, dude. So he works in medical device sales. He says he's surrounded by Botox and filler and butt lifts and tummy tucks and all the things. And so his idea of what women should look like is skewed, and he's talking about how he doesn't have a lot of integrity, or he hasn't in the past, and how he's been shallow and it's always been about looks for him. And so he really feels like this experiment will be a great test to see if he really is that kind of person. And he said, to be honest, I don't know. And in my opinion, I'm like, I feel like there are other ways that you can test that theory that are not on a TV show for people who are ready to get married and know or feel that they can get past what someone looks like, because it really is about the soul to soul connection. And so, and you know that saying where people are like, believe what people tell you about themselves the first time, or believe what people show you about themselves the first time. And he's said things like shallow, no integrity, caring about like looks, and the idea of what women should look like being skewed, that it's not a natural woman at all, seemingly. And his sense of humor just is not funny. And I feel like people who laughed either didn't really get it, or for some reason just really like the that kind of banter, or just trying to be polite or something. Because he was just like, what's wrong with you? Like I can have playful banter with my husband. I think laughing is very important. But we've learned over the years that you don't cross that line with even potential insecurities. Anything that has shown up as an insecurity at any point, you're not playful about that. You can be playful with things that the other person is like confident in, so that when you're joking about it, it doesn't make them feel upset in any kind of way. Like I'll see my husband just rip his best friend apart to shreds when they play video games. And it's like, okay, guys can just do that with each other, but with the love of your life, no way in hell is that man talking to me like that. No way. But we can still play with each other and have playful banter that isn't diminishing who they are as a human being or anything about what people look like. I don't know. Looks are important to people regardless of whether you say they are or not. And it's important to us to feel like we are attractive physically. And so like, don't nitpick like what somebody looks like. I don't know. If it's not something that you can fix in 30 seconds or less, zip it. Who cares? Okay, so now Lauren is introduced and she's on this date with Dave, or David, seems to be used interchangeably. And she seems super fun and cute. So she was a teacher for many years and said she would have continued doing that for years if they paid a livable wage, which like, yes, please pay our teachers more. Thank you. So she sells social studies curriculum to school districts, and that's kind of what her career is. This is like such a weird thing to say because I hate talking about people's like physical looks in such detail like this. Lauren is very beautiful and she seems very naturally beautiful. She does not seem like she's had any type of work done. And it almost makes me nervous because Dave sounds like the kind of person that wants to be with someone who has had work done. And the physical thing seems to be very important to him, even though he's trying to convince himself that it's not. And there's a part of me that feels for the guy because he's like, I don't want to be that person. I don't want to be shallow. I want to have integrity. I know that like the soul is significantly more important than what is on the outside, and that there's many different ways to be a beautiful woman that can mean a lot of different things. And it's like, I feel like those kinds of things assured Lauren a little bit and made her feel really good. She started talking about how attraction can grow after meeting a person. I feel nervous for Lauren because I think she deserves somebody who is already there and ready for her. And I feel like Dave has more work to do to get there for what Lauren's standards probably are, what they seem like they would be. She talked about a plaque that's in her dad's office that says, what did it say? It said something like, the greatest gift fathers can give to their children is to love their mother. And she always felt like that was so sweet, and she loved that saying, and she just seems very down to earth. And I don't know, I just don't get the feeling that Dave is there. And I don't know, in a way, I feel like I just want to like protect Lauren, even though it's not my job. And this was filmed a year ago, and I'm just like, ooh, I don't know. Okay, so then Molly is introduced, and she says she has never had a boyfriend before, not like a serious relationship anyway. And she talked about how it can't be her looks, or at least her friends have said, like, you're so pretty, how come you've not been in a relationship before? And she's like, well, it must be my personality then. And she's just kind of like playing around. So I'm kind of interested to like dive into that a little bit deeper and see. It sounds like it's been more of a choice for her, or like she's just preferred casual relationships over anything serious, and now that's starting to change, and now she kind of wants to settle down. This is just like me saying my own stuff. She's not saying this on the show or anything, but it sounds like Dave is really into her and she's really into Dave as well. So now we're kind of developing a little bit of a love triangle here with Dave, Molly, and Lauren. I kind of have my opinions on that whole situation, but we can get into it more later. Okay, so now we get Alex and Madison introduced. So Alex, his smile kind of reminds me of Harry Jowsey. I think that's how you say his name. He kind of looks like he would be like Harry's younger brother or something like that. In my notes, I wrote that he seeks out including people because he was bullied and experienced what it felt like to not be included. He didn't say that directly himself, but that was one of my perceptions of him. He did talk about being bullied and not, feeling included and all of that, getting picked on. He ate lunch in the bathroom a lot. He'd get beat up in the hallways. He'd like sit down at lunch and have his lunch get thrown off the table. And he told a girl that he liked her, had a crush on her, and she laughed at him. And all of her friends pointed and laughed at him, and just kind of had a hard experience with that. And then he kind of didn't do so well academically. And so he got kicked out of his house and had to deal with a lot on his own. So he dealt with a lot of traumas in that sense. And Madison, opened up about a lot of traumas that she had as well. So Madison is an artist. She's a painter. Her face reminds me of Miranda Cosgrove or iCarly. Tell me if you know who that is. But her face kind of reminds me of that. iCarly or Miranda has darker hair, but her face has that. I just felt like I wanted to give her a big hug when she was talking about all of her traumas. She's had family members pass away. She was conceived on accident. Her parents dealt with drugs, and like her stepdad overdosed on drugs when she was in 8th grade. And she kind of seems to have some like abandonment issues. And I don't mean that in a mean or judgmental way, just kind of a recognition based off of things that she's experienced in her lifetime. And yeah, I don't know. I kind of felt an instant connection with her and just never wanted to stop hearing her story and what she had to say. And you can tell Alex really felt that way with her. And she talked about how important it is to her to make people feel safe around her. And Alex really loved hearing that as well. But she's like well-traveled, and she's gone and learned Arabic and lived in, I think she said, the Middle East and all of this stuff. And I just think it's really cool. She's been through a lot of hard things, but she's also got to experience some really cool things as well. And I get her wanting to find somebody that can just be a permanent person in her life to love her and be there for her, who she can do the same for in return. Okay, this is getting like hard for me to film because my stomach hurts. But Madison is now going in on a date with Mason, And Mason is a cinematographer. He says he has a really great relationship with his nieces. They call him Uncle Macy, cutest thing ever. He's super close with his mom and dad still. And Madison said that that's something that's really important to her, is to end up with someone who has a really good family dynamic, considering she doesn't really have that. And as much as I was kind of shipping her and Alex also didn't seem to have a great relationship dynamic with his family, or family dynamic there. At least he talked about it in the past tense. He didn't really say, what it was like presently, and she wants to be able to have that good family dynamic with whoever she ends up marrying, and having her own family. If she has her own kids, she wants them to be able to see what a really good, healthy family looks like, which I totally understand. She talked about, her stepdad passing away and her dad being a very distant person. And she talked about not feeling like she can go to her mom for things, and like she's not an orphan, but she feels orphaned, if that makes sense. And I just wanted to hug her. I have totally understood that feeling. My mom did pass away of cancer, and she was my closest parent. She was one of my best friends, and I have two dads, a biological dad and then a dad who raised me, and it's just complicated. And so my kids a lot of times might not recognize them, and it's something that I have to like try and intentionally work on. So I kind of get what she means, and I just wanted to hug her, honestly. She's been through a lot, and I think she found a lot of comfort in Mason, really enjoying the Packers, which is, she has a whole personal family story about the Packers and her younger brother who passed away, who was named after Brett Favre from the Packers. And Mason's a big Packers fan, and so that was big for her, and him having a really good relationship with his family and desiring the same thing for his own family, I think was a really comforting thing for her to hear too. Okay, so next we have Meg coming in for a date with Mason, and I kind of feel like they vibed really well. They didn't talk about anything super serious yet. Like Mason and Madison there was like a little depth in their conversation, but not a lot of goofiness or stuff like that, if that even makes sense. But with Meg, they started getting there. So Meg, what is she? An oncology nurse, I think. Yeah, Meg is an oncology nurse. She kind of seemed to have she called them high thoughts, of just like thinks about things super randomly, and like, are there aliens out there, and how did the pyramids get there, and like, how are they built? There's all these like ant experiments that people do, and what if that is similar? What if there's someone out there, like in our crazy weather, is like some higher power experimenting with us, like we're the ants, and like all, like she's just like thinking super deeply. Now, I'm not gonna lie, I think about weird stuff like that sometimes, not exactly what she's thinking about. Like her stuff is a little bit different than mine, but I think a lot about like, why is this way? And mine is like, I love outer space, and thinking about like how we got here and why we're here, and how much our existence is of significance. And like, I think about stuff like that, but not exactly the same. Anywho, but Mason seemed to really love that. He seemed to be really into the conspiracy theories, and vibed with her really well right off the bat. So that was kind of their back and forth. The closest thing to them getting a little deep was when Meg said that her parents are very Christian, and she's not religious. She does believe in like energies and a higher power, and like some form of connection and something being out there, but she's much more just kind of like spiritual vibes kind of thing, which is kind of how I would describe myself as well. But her parents legitimately believe that she's going to hell, and she hates that they have to live with that. I assume that my parents who are alive think something like that about me, and have hopes of me returning to the Mormon church. But they haven't directly told me those things in a few years, so I don't know. But I get where she's coming from and feeling like a disappointment and not wanting to feel that way, but wanting to live authentic to who you are and what feels right for you. So I understood that. So at this point, I'm not so sure when it comes to Madison choosing Alex or Mason, or if it becomes Mason choosing between Meg or Madison. It's kind of like at this point in the episode, I'm not sure who I feel like should go with who yet. I need some more oomph, you know what I'm saying? Okay, this part's like kind of a weird topic for me just because I grew up believing that this topic was really taboo, but Molly and Dave are in the middle of another date and they're starting to talk about their sex lives and what kind of things they are interested in and if they're going to be sexually compatible. And I understand that I don't feel like I'm one that is even allowed to have an opinion on some of this because I grew up believing that you don't talk about any of that stuff until you get married, and then you're married and you can talk about it and go from there and do what you want to do. Now I don't necessarily believe that. I still think that there is value in giving yourself to someone who you basically, I feel like if you're going to be with someone intimately in that way, be okay with possibly having a child with them, even if you think it's impossible. Because it is almost always going to be a risk and it has to be one that you're willing to take. And even if you are not interested in being with that person romantically for the rest of your life, are you okay with this person being involved in your life for the rest of your life because you have a child together? So, and that's just like how I feel personally. Everybody can do whatever they want. Like, it's totally fine. I was not one who always followed that rule growing up. That made dating in the Mormon church very difficult. And I was so lucky to find my husband who, you know, me having been involved in those kinds of things in the past was not an issue for him, where for a lot of Mormon boys it was. But yeah, and so I don't think that it's necessarily, I don't think that it's wrong that Molly and Dave are talking about these things. Like, are we going to have sexual compatibility? I think there's value in having had some previous experience and knowing what you like or what you don't like, what you're comfortable with, what you're not comfortable with. And I think those are important discussions to have with somebody who you feel like you may become involved with them at that point. Then you can start talking about those things. The weird aspect of it for me is something about Dave and how he's talking about it and how he's communicating about it feels weird. Like, I don't even know how to describe it other than something about like the tone and the energy and the potential, what's the word? Like his motivation for bringing it up feels off. Something feels really weird with this guy. So again, I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with talking about the sexual compatibility, just something isn't right. Tell me if you feel what I mean, or if you're like, no, you're being really dramatic in the comments. Just let me know. Okay, so Lauren and Dave have another date now. I don't really feel like there was a ton to report. Really, something that just stood out to me is Lauren told Dave, like, hey, I didn't tell you my dad's name is Dave. And he's like, oh, that's interesting. And she's like, I don't mean, like, it's not weird. Like, I like my dad. I love my dad. And he like laughs and he's like, I like my dad. Like, just kind of laughing at what she said. And he's like, well, that's a thing though, right? And she goes, what, daddy issues? And he laughs. He's like, no. And she's like, I like to think I don't have those. And he's like, no, that people are attracted to qualities that remind them of their dad. And she's like, oh yeah, definitely. And so that made me think. I was like, yes, I have daddy issues. Had to talk all about that when I was dating my husband and all of that, even when we were married. But I was sitting there and I remember having a conversation with my mother before she passed away, and she talked about finding someone who was like my dad because, you know, people are attracted to those kinds of things. And I was like, no, I don't want anybody who is like him at all, I don't want that. I want, like, that is gross. That's disgusting. And I was thinking about it like really deeply. And she's like, well, find someone who has qualities that dad has that you enjoy. And if there are qualities that you don't enjoy, then find someone who doesn't have those. And I remember thinking about that. It kind of stuck with me for a while. So I was like, my husband is a very intellectual thinker, like one of my dads, because like I said earlier, I have two. So he's a very intellectual thinker, like one of them. And then he is hardworking and determined to do everything he can and put every ounce of his energy into things that are going to help better the lives of his wife and children, his family, and like give them all of the things that they need in a provider kind of role. And he has like a goofy sense of humor. And I was like, I think those are some of the qualities that either or of my dads have that he has. But then there's like a long list of other things that I love about him that I didn't really. Anyway, I don't know how much is too much to share, so I'll just be quiet about that. Okay, then we're back with another date with Daniel and Taylor, and it was just kind of like a really cutesy date back and forth where they were just affirming each other and their feelings for each other. Taylor's voice was shot in the pod, so she just sounded very sick, and you could tell she was super annoyed by it, but Daniel thought it was cute. But regardless, yeah, they were just kind of affirming each other and their feelings and how they feel very comfortable with each other and safe with each other, and feel like they can talk about anything. They feel they were kind of reassuring each other and all of that. So it's just kind of a cutesy date. Like, yeah, things are still good here. We're still really enjoying each other's company and our time, and this is good. Okay, so then we get Joey and Monica on a date again. And Joey starts talking about how his mom hasn't always been great with money, how he has he didn't go to school far away because he didn't want to leave his younger sister alone. Because if you remember, he did have another sister who passed away. He wanted to be near his family. He, had to pay his own way through school. And he, when he finished grad school, he said he had like $200 in his bank account. So he learned how to invest it and how to, manage all of that. And he's very proud of himself. He bought his first property when he was 27, and he set up like, a 401k. He had to set up a separate retirement account for his mom. And honestly, I think it's so insanely sad that he feels the need to stress or manage those things for another adult, an adult who should be the one teaching him those things and leading by an example. But again, it sounds like the circumstances of their life has been really, really difficult. I have not lived that life. I have not been down that path. So I don't have a right to say anything about it in that kind of way other than just what he has said. So as much as I think that that is like a difficult and sad thing that he has to do, I also think that is a very strong, brave, admirable thing that he's doing at the same time. So I thought that that was worth mentioning. Oh my gosh, I feel like I have whiplash over here with how many dates are going like back and forth, back and forth. I'm like, should I just break down every couple and just talk about all the dates that happened in that episode and then move on to the couple? Because I feel like this is the third time I've come back to the same couple. Anyway, so we had Lauren and Dave talking again. I didn't feel like there was nothing that really stood out to me within their date. They talked about what kind of tattoos they have, that if they were to get married, maybe they could get matching tattoos. Dave felt like she kind of had a wild side to her because of her getting a tattoo, and he seemed to kind of like that a little bit. And it wasn't expected for him. Both of them were saying they didn't want to leave the date. Dave was feeling really overwhelmed with how much he enjoyed the date. And Lauren, I think she's trying to be modest in like how many people she's seeing. She's just like, oh, you've been in my top for like the last few days. But it kind of, at least with the way the show is playing it out, it looks like he's the only guy she's talking to. But yeah, they both, because he threw out the like, if we get married, I'd like to get matching tattoos. She was like she heard that, and that you could tell made her pretty giddy. And then he goes in with his date with Molly directly after after this. So in his date with Molly, they start talking about tattoos. I'm sure it was just on Dave's mind and maybe he brought it up after his date with Lauren. But so she starts talking about some of her tattoos. Says that she has a tattoo on her ass, and he's like, oh, where is it? And she's like, on my ass, which is like exactly what I would have said if someone said that to me. I also have a tattoo there. I don't think she said what hers was though. But maybe she did say what it was. I'm drawing a blank, but she was like, yeah, I mean, it's just like on the side, you could see it in a swimsuit. He's like, I don't think I've ever seen that before. And she's like, have you seen very many asses? And he's like, no. She's like, I get that vibe from you. But yeah, is that the end of this episode yet? My gosh. And Dave kind of reassures Molly at the end of the day, like, I don't think I've really said this to you, but I like you a lot. And like from the beginning, I've been saying like Molly. And so he's kind of leading Lauren and Molly on. I don't know. I just get like the major ick from this guy. And so I feel like there's like a piece of my heart that like wants to protect Lauren a little bit more because she feels more of I don't want to say victim and be rude, but I don't know. But at least like when it comes to Molly, I feel like she kind of like vibes with some of the things that he does and says that give me the ick. So it doesn't seem like it's giving her the ick, and she maybe likes some of those things. And so that'll be fine. But when they were in the women's headquarters, or what do they call it? They call it the headquarters on the thing, but Pod Squad, I think that's what it is. Anyway, when they're on the women's side, Molly ends up like whispering to Madison and Lauren about who her top guy is and says it's Dave. And Lauren doesn't want to say who her top guy is. It is Dave. And she instantly is just like, okay, is Molly saying that because she wants to intimidate the competition? Because that really hurts that she feels like she would want to say that and all of the stuff, which personally, like, I could totally see Molly getting written out over these next few episodes as being like a mean girl, but I don't really feel like that's the case. I legitimately don't think that she knows that Lauren is one of the girls still talking to Dave. I don't think Lauren would have, or I don't think Molly would have told Lauren that her top guy is Dave and that's who she's been talking about if she knew that Lauren had Dave as her top guy too. I don't think she would do that. I don't know. I obviously don't know these people. I'm just learning. I'm just observing. It's reality TV. People can edit however they want to build whatever type of story they want. And so take everything I'm saying with a grain of salt. And that is the final thought of Love is Blind Season 8, Episode 1. Hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please hit the thumbs up button and subscribe for more content like this, and stay tuned for Episode 2, and I'll see you over there. Bye, guys.